Hello, wonderful growers, and welcome back to Earthly Delights, the place where we don't just grow plants, we learn how to wake up the living world beneath our feet. If you are someone who has ever stood beside a yellowing tomato plant, a tired house plant, a patch of compacted garden soil, or a raised bed that simply refuses to thrive, this video is for you. Maybe you are a beginner trying to save your first struggling plant. Maybe you are a backyard gardener who wants richer soil without spending more money. Maybe you grow vegetables, herbs, flowers, fruit trees, or indoor plants, and deep down, you know there has to be a more natural way than constantly buying another bag, bottle, spray, or fertilizer. Have you ever spent your time, energy, and hard-earned money on organic fertilizers, bottled nutrients, compost boosters, or pest control products, only to watch your plants remain weak, pale, and lifeless? What if the real problem is not that your plants are hungry, but that your soil has forgotten how to live? Today we are stepping into a powerful new way of seeing the garden. We are going to explore how to trigger an incredible burst of growth by feeding the soil with a simple, living microbe liquid that can be made for almost $0. This is the world of JADAM, and this one idea may completely change the way you care for your plants, your soil, and your entire garden. So before we dig into this living secret, make sure to subscribe to Earthly Delights, because what you are about to learn may make you look at every handful of soil differently. Section 1. The illusion of modern farming and the corporate trap. Now, before we make this powerful microbe liquid, we need to ask a question that may change the way you see your entire garden. Why are we paying so much money for something nature has already been doing perfectly for millions of years? For decades, modern farming has trained us to believe that plants survive only when we feed them from the outside. We are told to buy nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. We are told to measure, mix, spray, and repeat. And little by little, many gardeners have been pulled into a system where the soil is treated like dead material and the plant is treated like a machine that only needs chemical fuel. But healthy soil is not dead. It is alive. Beneath every strong plant is a hidden universe of roots, fungi, bacteria, minerals, air, water, and organic matter all working together. When we bypass that living system and feed only synthetic NPK salts, we may get fast, green growth for a short time, but over the years, the soil becomes weaker, harder, and less capable of supporting life on its own. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Even many organic gardeners have fallen into a similar trap. Instead of chemical products, we buy expensive, natural products. We buy bottled microbes, liquid fertilizers, wetting agents, compost boosters, and soil conditioners, often spending hundreds of dollars every season. The labels may look earthy and friendly, but the pattern is still the same. We are depending on something outside our own land. This is exactly where JADAM offers a different path. JADAM comes from the Korean phrase Jaeonul Damun Saramdul, meaning people who resemble nature. At its heart, JADAM teaches that high-quality, high-yield growing does not have to come from a store shelf. The real power is already inside your local ecosystem. If you use healthy local biomass, healthy local soil life, and simple natural materials, you can create inputs that match your own environment beautifully. Your garden does not need a one-size-fits-all solution made far away in a factory. It needs biology that understands your climate, your soil, your rainfall, your seasons, and your plants. And once you understand that, you begin to take back control from the corporate system and return that power to your own hands. Section 2. Meet the ancient microbes. So what is the living force behind this transformation? The answer is indigenous microorganisms, often called IMOs. These are not generic microbes made in a laboratory and shipped in a bottle. When you buy commercial, effective microorganisms from a garden center, you may be adding useful bacteria, but those organisms were not necessarily born in your climate. They may not understand your soil temperature, your rainfall, your native plants, or the invisible relationships already happening beneath your garden. Indigenous microorganisms are different. They are the ancient local workers of your land. They include bacteria, fungi, yeasts, protozoa, and many other tiny life forms that have adapted to your specific environment over countless seasons. They have survived heat, cold, drought, rain, pests, fallen leaves, decaying wood, and the natural rhythm of your region. In other words, they already know how to live where you live. When you bring these IMOs into your garden, you are not adding just one good microbe. You are introducing an entire living village. Some break down organic matter and turn old leaves, roots, and plant residues into usable nutrients. Some help release phosphorus that is locked in the soil. Some support nitrogen cycling. Some produce natural plant growth compounds that encourage stronger roots, healthier leaves, and more vigorous growth. This is why the microbial world is so powerful. Organisms such as Bacillus and Pseudomonas are often associated with nutrient availability, while fungi like Trichoderma are known for helping suppress certain soil-borne problems. But the true strength is not in one name or one species. The strength is in the diversity. It is the teamwork. Think of it as hiring an invisible workforce that never asks for payment, never takes a holiday, and works day and night to rebuild the foundation of your garden. When the soil is alive, the plant does not stand alone. It is supported by billions of tiny allies, all helping it feed, defend itself, and grow with greater resilience. And the most exciting part is that you do not need a laboratory to find them. You do not need a specialist, a microscope, or an expensive product. You only need to understand where nature stores her most powerful biological treasure. Section 3. The forest's secret biological library. So where do we find these ancient microbes? The answer is simple. We look where the soil is already alive. We look to the forest floor. At the heart of JADAM Microbial Solution, or JMS, is leaf mold. Leaf mold is the dark, crumbly, earthy material found beneath layers of fallen leaves in an undisturbed forest or natural area. It is not just dirt. It is not just old leaves. It is one of nature's richest biological libraries. Every handful of good leaf mold can contain an incredible range of living organisms that have spent years adapting to that environment. It holds decomposers that break down plant matter, fungi that connect and transform nutrients, bacteria that multiply rapidly, and countless microscopic life forms that help keep the system balanced. This is why a forest can feed itself without bags of fertilizer, without sprays, and without anyone turning the soil every week. And this is where JADAM challenges a common modern idea. In many gardening systems, we are taught to separate microbes into simple categories: good microbes and bad microbes. We want to choose only the beneficial ones and remove everything else. But nature does not work that way. A strong ecosystem is not built from one or two selected strains. It is built from balance. JADAM teaches that the good and the bad exist together inside a larger natural order. When diversity is high, no single organism easily dominates. Producers, predators, decomposers, competitors, and recyclers all keep one another in check. That balance is what creates resilience. If we introduce only a few laboratory-grown strains, we may disturb the microecology of the soil. But when we collect leaf mold from a clean, undisturbed local area, we are gathering a complete community. We are bringing home a living memory of the forest, the organisms that know how to digest leaves, unlock nutrients, build soil structure, and survive in local conditions. This is why leaf mold is so valuable. It is not magic in the childish sense. It is magic in the natural sense, the kind of quiet, invisible intelligence that has been keeping forests alive long before humans invented fertilizers. And once we learn how to multiply that life in water, we can carry that forest wisdom back into our gardens, our raised beds, our orchards, and even the tired patches of soil we thought were beyond saving. The $0 miracle recipe. All right, Earthly Delights family, now that we understand where this hidden life comes from, it is time to turn that small handful of forest leaf mold into a living liquid that can wake up tired soil and help struggling plants burst back to life. What we are making is called JMS, or JADAM Microorganism Solution. And the beautiful thing is this: the recipe is surprisingly simple. You are not buying a laboratory product, and you are not depending on expensive bottled nutrients. You are multiplying the life that already exists in nature. The first ingredient is your indigenous microorganisms, and that comes from the leaf mold we talked about earlier. This is your inoculant, the living starter that carries the bacteria, fungi, yeasts, and other tiny organisms into the brew. The second ingredient is potatoes. Potatoes are the food source, and there is a very good reason JADAM uses potatoes instead of only sugar or molasses. Potatoes contain complex starches, and those starches can support a wider range of microorganisms. They are especially helpful for encouraging the types of microbes that break down tougher organic matter in the soil. When you boil the potatoes until they are soft, the starches become easier for microbial enzymes to access, almost like preparing a feast for the invisible workers. The third ingredient is sea salt. In this system, sea salt acts like a mineral catalyst. It helps provide a wide range of trace elements, often described as dozens of essential minerals that can support plant nutrition and microbial activity. And the fourth ingredient is non-chlorinated water. This part is extremely important. Chlorine is added to water because it kills bacteria. But in this case, bacteria and microbes are exactly what we are trying to grow. So use rainwater, well water, or water that has been properly dechlorinated before you begin. Now here is where JMS becomes very different from aerated compost tea. If you have ever made a CT, you may know that it often requires air pumps running constantly to keep oxygen moving through the brew. JMS does not need that. It is a non-aerated brew. You simply place the boiled potatoes and leaf mold in a mesh bag, suspend them in the water, gently massage the bag to release the nutrients and organisms, and then let the mixture sit covered. This method encourages a special group of microorganisms known as facultative anaerobes. These are extremely useful because they can function in both oxygen-rich and oxygen-poor environments. And that detail matters more than most gardeners realize, because the deeper layers of tired, compacted soil often do not have much oxygen at all. Section 5. The microscopic Pac-Mans in biological tillage. So why are these facultative anaerobes so exciting for your garden? This is where JMS becomes more than just a plant tonic. It becomes a tool for changing the soil itself. One of the biggest enemies of a healthy garden is soil compaction. When soil becomes hard and tight, roots struggle to expand. Water runs off instead of soaking in. Air cannot move properly. Even if you add fertilizer, the plant may still suffer because the root zone is trapped inside a dense, lifeless structure. Now imagine applying a brew full of microbes that are able to move into those difficult, oxygen-poor spaces. Many strictly aerobic organisms may struggle once they are washed deep into compacted soil. But the microbes encouraged in JMS can keep working there. Picture them like countless microscopic Pac-Mans moving through the soil. As they consume organic matter, they release sticky biological substances that help bind tiny soil particles together into stable aggregates. These natural glues help create better soil structure from the inside out. Over time, this process opens small channels where air and water can move. Roots can explore more freely, moisture can sink deeper, the soil begins to breathe again. This is often described as biological tillage. Instead of constantly digging, turning, or breaking your back with heavy tools, you allow biology to do part of the work. The microbes help loosen, build, and organize the soil in a way that supports long-term fertility. And for anyone growing vegetables, flowers, fruit trees, herbs, or even repairing a tired garden bed, that is a powerful shift. Because once the soil structure improves, everything above the ground has a better chance to improve too. Section 6. Application Protocols and Explosive Growth. Now let's say your JMS has been brewing for 24 to 72 hours. The surface may show activity, the mixture may look alive, and the microbial population is reaching that exciting multiplication phase. This is the moment many growers are waiting for. But before you rush into the garden with a full bucket, remember this. JMS is a concentrated living brew, and it should always be diluted. For a soil drench, a common dilution is 1 part JMS to 10 parts water. This is used to push microbial life deep into tired soil, raised beds, vegetable rows, orchards, or areas where plants have been struggling. For a foliar spray, you can dilute it around 1 to 10 or 1 to 20 and spray it onto the leaves. The idea is to place a living biological presence on the leaf surface, helping create a more balanced environment where pests and disease pressure may have a harder time taking over. For seed starting, go much weaker, around 1 to 100. Young seedlings are delicate, so the goal is not to overwhelm them, but to gently introduce beneficial biology from the beginning of life. Timing is also important. Do not apply JMS under harsh midday sun. Ultraviolet rays can damage the delicate microbes you work to multiply. Early morning or late evening is much better. And never apply it to bone-dry soil. Microbes need moisture to move, survive, and spread. Apply after watering, after irrigation, or just before a gentle rain. And this brings us to the question every gardener wants answered. Does it really work? In the original examples often shared around JMS, treated chili pepper plants showed much stronger growth than untreated plants. The JMS group reached an average height of about 48.4 centimeters, compared with about 31.4 centimeters in the control group. Even more striking, the treated plants produced around 58 leaves, while the control plants had about 25. That kind of difference is not just about feeding the plant in the simple way we usually think of fertilizer. It comes from activating the living system around the roots. Diverse microbes can help release micronutrients, support nutrient cycling, and produce natural growth-promoting compounds that encourage stronger root development. This is why growers use JMS in many different settings, from small vegetable gardens and home orchards to more intensive farming systems. The scale can change, but the principle stays the same. When you multiply local biology and return it to the soil, you are not just feeding a plant for one day. You are rebuilding the foundation that allows plants to grow with strength, resilience, and energy. Section 7. Closing the Loop and the Clean Culture Principle. And once you understand JMS, you see that it is only the beginning. JADAM is not just about making one microbial liquid. It teaches us to build a closed-loop garden where weeds, crop residues, and healthy plant materials are no longer waste. They become resources. This is where JADAM Liquid Fertilizer, or JLF, comes in. Instead of buying fertilizers season after season, you can take biomass from your own land and ferment it into liquid plant food. Because these materials come from your local environment, they reflect the minerals, plants, and conditions of that same environment. In a real way, your garden begins to feed your garden. That is the power of local fertility. You are not depending on something shipped from far away or packaged in plastic. You are recycling life back into the soil and allowing your growing space to become self-sustaining. But as we work with living biology, we must also work with care. JADAM may be natural, but natural does not mean careless. The clean culture principle is essential. Always collect leaf mold from clean, undisturbed forest areas, far away from livestock operations, sewage runoff, trash, or places that may carry human pathogens. Never use buckets or tools that held chemical pesticides. And always trust your nose. A healthy JMS batch should smell earthy, yeasty, or slightly sweet, like good soil after rain. But if it smells rotten, putrid, or like a swamp, something has gone wrong. That is your spoilage indicator. Discard that batch, clean your tools, and start again. Finally, when using raw biological amendments around food crops, respect the 90 to 120-day safety window before harvesting crops that touch the soil. A strong garden should be productive, but also safe and responsible. What we have explored today is much more than a gardening hack. It is a different way of seeing the earth. For too long, many growers have been taught that fertility must come from a bag, a bottle, or a product with a price tag. But JADAM reminds us that real fertility begins with living systems. It begins with microbes, leaf mold, decomposing plants, healthy biomass, and the quiet intelligence of nature. You do not need to stay trapped in an expensive cycle of buying wetting agents, bottled microbes, and fertilizers every season. A tired garden does not always need more products from a store. Sometimes it needs the invisible workforce that nature already created. When you multiply local microbes, ferment materials, and return that life back to the soil, you become more than a gardener. You become the steward of a self-sustaining ecosystem. So next time you step into your garden, ask yourself this: are you looking at lifeless dirt? Or are you standing above microscopic allies waiting to help your plants burst back to life? If this opened your eyes and you are ready to try your $0 microbe liquid, hit that like button, share this video with another grower, and subscribe to Earthly Delights. Until next time, keep your hands dirty, keep your soil alive, and let's grow a better world together.